Alright, let's dive into some common ASP.NET MVC interview questions and their answers. Basic concepts. Q. What is the MVC pattern and how does ASP.NET MVC implement it? A. The MVC pattern separates an application into three components. Model represents the data and business logic. View displays the data to the user. Controller handles user input and manages the flow between the model and view. ASP.NET MVC is a framework that implements this pattern, providing a structured way to build web applications with clear separation of concerns. Q. What are the advantages of using ASP.NET MVC? A. Separation of concerns, better organization and maintainability, improved testability, clean URLs, SEO friendly, full control over HTML and markup, lightweight and fast performance. Q. What is the difference between ASP.NET Web Forms and ASP.NET MVC? A. Web Forms uses a page-based, event-driven model with a server-side control model. It abstracts HTML and HTTP, making it easier for developers familiar with desktop development. MVC uses a request-response model with explicit control over HTML and HTTP. It's more suitable for developers who want greater control and testability. Modern .NET development focuses on ASP.NET Core, which is a cross-platform framework. Controllers and actions. Q. What is a controller in ASP.NET MVC? A. A controller is a class that handles user requests, interacts with the model, and selects a view to render the response. Q. What is an action method? A. An action method is a public method within a controller that responds to a specific HTTP request. Q. How do you pass data from a controller to a view? A. View data, a dictionary object. ViewBag, a dynamic object. Temp data, a dictionary object that persists data between redirects. Model binding, passing a strongly typed model object. Q. What is routing in ASP.NET MVC? A. Routing is the process of mapping URLs to specific controller actions. It allows you to create clean and SEO-friendly URLs, views, and models. Q. What is a view in ASP.NET MVC? A. A view is responsible for rendering the user interface. It typically uses Razor syntax to embed server-side code within HTML. Q. What is Razor syntax? A. Razor is a templating engine that allows you to embed C# or VB.NET code within HTML markup. Q. What is a model in ASP.NET MVC? A. A model represents the data and business logic of the application. It can be a simple class or a complex object that interacts with a database. Q. What is model binding? A. Model binding is the process of automatically mapping HTTP request data to model objects. Q. What are partial views? A. Partial views are reusable view components that can be rendered within other views. Data and validation. Q. How do you perform data validation in ASP.NET MVC? A. Data annotations. Attributes applied to model properties to define validation rules. Custom validation. Implementing custom validation logic. Client-side validation and server-side validation are both important. Q. How do you interact with a database in ASP.NET MVC? A. Entity Framework, EF, an ORM, Object Relational Mapper, that simplifies database interactions. ADO.NET, for direct database access. Q. What is Entity Framework? A. Entity Framework, EF, is an ORM framework that allows you to work with databases using .NET objects. It simplifies database operations by mapping database tables to classes. Other important concepts. Q. What is temp data and when would you use it? A. Temp data is a dictionary object that stores data for a single subsequent request. It's commonly used to pass data between redirects. Q. What are action filters? A. Action filters are attributes that can be applied to controller actions to add cross-cutting concerns, such as authentication, authorization, or logging. Q. What is dependency injection, DI? A. Dependency injection is a design pattern that allows you to provide dependencies to a class rather than having the class create them. It promotes loose coupling and testability. While older Link to ASP.NET MVC had ways to implement DI, ASP.NET Core has it built in. Q. What is the difference between action result and view result? A. Action result is an abstract class that represents the result of an action method. View result is a concrete class that derives from action result and specifically renders a view. There are many other types of action results, like JS on result and redirect result.